My dear friends, gathered here in pursuit of that most noble and challenging journey, the path to becoming your authentic self. I stand before you not as one who has completed this journey, for such completion is but an illusion, but as a fellow traveler on this winding road of self-discovery. Let us begin by acknowledging a fundamental truth. The modern world, with its ceaseless noise and relentless demands for conformity, has created a profound disconnection from our innermost being. We wear masks, not just one, but many, facades we have crafted so masterfully that we sometimes forget they are masks at all. These personas we present to the world are not entirely false, yet they often eclipse the deeper, more authentic self that dwells within. Consider if you wear the pattern of your daily existence. How often do you pause to listen to the whispers of your inner voice? That voice, so often drowned out by the cacophony of external expectations, holds the key to your individual truth. It speaks in the language of dreams. In moments of spontaneous creativity, in those fleeting instances when you feel most alive and connected to your essence, the journey to selfhood, what I have termed the process of individuation, is not a straight path. It is a labyrinth, spiraling inward toward your core truth, while simultaneously expanding outward into greater consciousness. This paradox lies at the heart of personal transformation. To become who you truly are, you must first acknowledge who you are not. Let me share with you an observation from my years of exploring the human psyche. Most people live in a state of what I call unconscious identification. They identify completely with their social roles, their professional titles, their relationships, father, mother, doctor, artist, friend. While these roles are important aspects of our lives, they are not the totality of who we are. They are containers, vessels, through which we express portions of ourselves. But they should not become prisons that confine our complete being. Think of the child you once were, that authentic, uninhibited being who lived in the moment, who knew what brought joy and what caused pain, who could express emotions without fear of judgment. That child still lives within you, not as a remnant to be discarded, but as a vital part of your wholeness. The process of becoming your true self requires not the abandonment of this child, but its integration into your adult consciousness. The shadow, that aspect of ourselves we prefer not to acknowledge, plays a crucial role in this journey. Many of you might resist this notion, believing that personal growth means eliminating our negative aspects. But I tell you with absolute conviction, the path to authenticity requires us to embrace our entirety, including those parts we would rather deny. Consider this: every time you judge another person harshly, every time you react with disproportionate emotion to someone's behavior, you are likely encountering your own shadow. These moments are not obstacles to your growth, they are gateways to deeper self-understanding. When you feel triggered by someone's arrogance, ask yourself, where in my life do I express or repress similar traits? When you find yourself envious of another's success, question, what unlived potential within me is crying out for expression? The golden key to becoming your true self lies not in perfection, but in wholeness. Perfection is a static, lifeless state, an impossible ideal that serves only to distance us from our authentic nature. Wholeness, on the other hand, encompasses both light and shadow, strength and vulnerability, certainty and doubt. It is dynamic, ever-evolving, and thoroughly human. Let me speak now of the collective unconscious, that vast reservoir of human experience we all share. Within this profound depth lie the archetypal patterns that shape our journey. The hero, the wise one, the caregiver, the creator, these are not mere literary devices but fundamental patterns of human experience that live within each of us. Understanding how these archetypal energies manifest in your life can illuminate your path to authenticity. Many of you may feel resistant to this journey, and this resistance is natural. Our ego, the conscious part of our personality that we identify with, often feels threatened by the prospect of change. It clings to familiar patterns, even when those patterns no longer serve our growth. But consider this: the discomfort you feel when confronting your authentic self is not a warning to retreat. It is a sign that you are approaching something significant. The process of becoming your true self requires courage, not the brash courage of ego, but the quiet courage of truth. It demands that you stand firm in the face of uncertainty, that you remain open to the messages of your unconscious mind, that you dare to question the assumptions that have shaped your life thus far. Dreams play a vital role in this journey. They are not mere random firings of the sleeping brain, but messages from your deeper self. Pay attention to your dreams, not with the intention of finding literal meanings, but as symbolic communications from your unconscious. When a dream disturbs you, when it leaves you questioning, when it feels significant despite its apparent absurdity, these are moments when your deeper self is speaking to you. The symbols and images that appear in your dreams are personal hieroglyphs, unique to your psyche, yet connected to universal human experiences. A river in your dream might represent the flow of life, but what that flow means specifically to you, whether it represents danger or opportunity, stagnation or progress, depends on your personal relationship with water, with movement, with change. Let us speak of the persona, that face we present to the world. While many consider the persona false, I tell you it serves a necessary function. Like the skin that protects our internal organs, the persona mediates between our inner self and the external world. The problem arises not from having a persona, but from becoming identified with it, to the exclusion of our deeper nature. Your task is not to destroy the persona, but to make it more flexible, more transparent to your authentic self. Think of it as a garment that should be appropriate to the occasion, but should never become so rigid that it restricts the movement of your soul. The business executive who cannot relax with family, the spiritual seeker who cannot engage with practical matters, the parent who has forgotten how to play, these are examples of persona rigidity that blocks authentic self-expression. The journey to selfhood requires a delicate balance between social adaptation and individual authenticity. You must learn to dance between these poles, to be part of the collective while maintaining your unique identity. This is not a contradiction, but a creative tension that generates growth. Consider the natural world. A tree grows both upward toward the light and downward into the dark earth. Its branches reach for the sky while its roots delve deep into the soil. Both movements are essential for its survival and growth. Similarly, your journey to authenticity requires both the upward movement toward consciousness and the downward movement into the rich soil of your unconscious nature. The obstacles you encounter on this path, the doubts, the fears, the resistances, are not enemies to be vanquished, but aspects of yourself seeking integration. When you feel stuck, when you find yourself repeating old patterns despite your best intentions to change, remember that these moments contain valuable information about your psyche. What appears as an obstacle often guards a doorway to greater self-understanding. The anxiety that prevents you from speaking your truth, the perfectionism that keeps you from starting new projects, the fear that holds you back from intimate relationships. These are not merely problems to be solved, but messages to be decoded. The process of becoming your true self cannot be rushed or forced. Like the transformation of a caterpillar into a butterfly, it follows its own organic timing. Many of you, shaped by our achievement-oriented culture, may attempt to accelerate this process, to turn it into another goal to be conquered. But authentic transformation cannot be approached with the same mindset we use for external accomplishments. Consider how often in your lives you have attempted to force change through sheer willpower. Perhaps you've set rigid goals for self-improvement, created strict schedules for meditation or self-reflection, or demanded immediate insights from your unconscious mind. While discipline has its place, the journey to authenticity requires a different kind of attention, one that is receptive rather than demanding, patient rather than forceful. The psyche, in its infinite wisdom, brings forth what is needed when we are ready to integrate it. This readiness cannot be manufactured or rushed. Just as a seed contains within itself the pattern and timing of its growth, your psyche holds the blueprint for your individual development. Your task is not to force this growth, but to create conditions that support it. Let us speak of these conditions. First among them is the cultivation of inner silence. In a world that bombards us with constant noise and stimulation, the ability to be quiet and listen to your inner voice is revolutionary. This silence is not mere absence of sound, but a quality of attention that allows the deeper currents of your psyche to be heard. Many of you may find this silence frightening at first. In the quiet, all that we have suppressed begins to surface. Uncomfortable emotions, unacknowledged desires, forgotten memories. These arise not to torment us, but to be integrated into our conscious awareness. Each of these elements carries energy that, when acknowledged and transformed, becomes available for authentic self-expression. The second condition is the development of symbolic thinking. Our modern consciousness, excellently adapted for technological and practical matters, often struggles with symbolic understanding. Yet it is precisely through symbols that our deeper self communicates. A dream of flying a recurring animal in your thoughts. A pattern that appears in your creative work. These are not random occurrences, but meaningful communications from your psyche. Developing symbolic awareness requires a shift from literal to metaphorical thinking. When you encounter a repeated pattern in your life, perhaps in relationships, work, or creative endeavors, ask yourself, what is the symbolic meaning of this pattern? What aspect of myself is seeking expression through this recurring theme? The third condition is the courage to face your complexes. These are the emotional patterns, often rooted in early experiences, that shape your reactions to life. A complex is like a subpersonality within the psyche, with its own emotions, memories, and patterns of behavior. When activated, a complex can temporarily possess our personality, leading us to react in ways that later seem foreign to our conscious intentions. Rather than trying to eliminate these complexes, an impossible task, the goal is to become conscious of them and understand their influence. Each complex contains not only wounded aspects of our psyche, but also potential for growth. The person with a strong father complex, for instance, may struggle with authority, but also carries the potential for developing authentic leadership qualities. Let me speak now of the importance of creative expression in becoming your true self. Creativity is not limited to artistic pursuits. It is a fundamental aspect of psychic health, whether through art, writing, music, dance, or any form of authentic self-expression. Creativity provides a bridge between your conscious and unconscious mind. When you engage in creative activity without judgment, allowing whatever emerges to take form, you are participating in the natural self-regulating function of the psyche. The images, words, or movements that arise carry messages from your deeper self. They may not make immediate logical sense, but they speak the language of the soul. Consider the moments in your life when you felt most authentic, most alive. Perhaps it was while engaged in creative work, or during a meaningful conversation, or in communion with nature. These moments are glimpses of your true self, points where your outer activity aligned perfectly with your inner nature. The challenge is not to hold on to these moments, for authenticity is not a static state, but to learn from them. What conditions allowed your true self to emerge? What internal and external factors supported this authentic expression? This understanding becomes a compass for future growth. Let us address the role of relationships in becoming your true self. While the journey to authenticity is deeply personal, it does not occur in isolation. Our relationships serve as mirrors, showing us aspects of ourselves we might not otherwise see. The people who trigger strong emotional reactions in us, positive or negative, are often reflecting parts of our own psyche that seek recognition. The concept of projection is crucial here. We constantly project our unconscious content onto others, seeing in them qualities that actually belong to us. These projections can be both positive and negative. When you find yourself intensely admiring someone, ask yourself what quality they embody that you need to develop in yourself. When you find yourself strongly repelled by someone, consider what shadow aspect of yourself they might be reflecting. The process of withdrawing these projections, of recognizing that what we see in others often reflects our own unconscious content, is essential for becoming your true self. This doesn't mean that others don't possess the qualities we see in them, but rather that our strong emotional reactions to these qualities tell us something important about ourselves. Another crucial aspect of this journey is the integration of opposites within the psyche. Each of us contains apparent contradictions. We are both strong and vulnerable, rational and emotional, creative and practical. The tendency to identify with one side of these polarities while rejecting the other creates internal conflict and blocks authentic self-expression. The goal is not to eliminate these opposites, but to hold them in creative tension. Think of a bow and string. It is the tension between them that creates the potential for action. Similarly, the tension between opposing aspects of your nature creates the dynamic energy needed for growth and transformation. Your true self emerges not from choosing one side over the other, but from finding a unique way to embrace both. This is what I call the transcendent function, the psyche's natural movement toward wholeness through the integration of opposites. The path to authentic selfhood requires us to confront what I call the provisional life, that state in which we postpone our real existence, always waiting for some future moment when we will begin to live genuinely. Perhaps you tell yourself, when I achieve this goal, or when I overcome this obstacle, or when circumstances change, then you will begin to live authentically. But I tell you with absolute certainty, the time for authentic living is always now, in whatever circumstances you find yourself. Consider how many of your current behaviors and beliefs are provisional, temporary adaptations that have become permanent fixtures in your personality. These adaptations might have served you well at one point, protecting you from pain or helping you fit into your family or society. But like scaffolding that remains after a building is complete, these provisional structures may now be obscuring the true architecture of your being. The process of dismantling these provisional structures requires great discernment. You must learn to distinguish between necessary adaptations to reality and outdated patterns that no longer serve your growth. This is not a matter of intellectual analysis alone, but requires deep intuitive understanding, what I call the recognition of inner truth. Let us speak of the role of failure in becoming your true self. In our success-oriented culture, failure is seen as something to be avoided at all costs. But I tell you that failure, when properly understood, is often a more reliable guide than success. When you fail at maintaining a false self-image, when your carefully constructed persona cracks, when your anticipated future crumbles, these are often moments of breakthrough rather than breakdown. These failures crack open the shell of false certainty, allowing something new to emerge. Think of how a seed must break open for the plant to grow, or how a snake must shed its skin to continue its development. Your failures may be the very experiences that create space for your authentic self to emerge. The concept of time takes on new meaning in this journey. Linear time, the clock time of our everyday world, operates differently from what I call psychological time. A single moment of genuine insight might alter your entire relationship with yourself, while years of routine existence might pass without significant inner development. Learn to recognize and honor these kairos moments, times of opportunity for authentic growth and transformation. Let us explore the role of the body in this process of becoming. Many of you, influenced by centuries of philosophical and religious tradition, may regard the body as separate from or even opposed to the development of the true self. But I tell you that the body is intimately involved in the process of individuation. Your physical symptoms, your patterns of tension, your instinctual reactions, these are all communications from your deeper self. The body holds its own wisdom, its own truth, which often operates beyond conscious control. When you experience inexplicable fatigue, sudden bursts of energy, or persistent physical symptoms, your body may be expressing aspects of your psyche that seek recognition. Learning to listen to these bodily messages is essential for authentic self-development. Consider also the role of emotion in this journey. Emotions are not obstacles to be overcome, but vital signals from your psyche. Each emotion, even those we label as negative, carries important information about your relationship with yourself and the world. Anger might signal violated boundaries. Fear might point to areas requiring growth. Joy might indicate alignment with your true nature. The capacity to fully experience and understand your emotions without being overwhelmed by them is crucial for authentic self-expression. This requires developing what I call emotional literacy, the ability to read and interpret your emotional states as meaningful communications rather than inconvenient disruptions. Let us address the question of vocation not merely as a career choice, but as a calling that emerges from your authentic self. Many of you may have chosen your life's work based on external factors, family expectations, financial considerations, social status. While these factors cannot be ignored, true vocation must arise from within, from the deep wellspring of your individual nature. Your true vocation is not just what you do, but how your unique qualities can serve the needs of the world. It is the place where your authentic self meets the needs of your community. Finding this intersection requires careful attention to both your inner promptings and the realities of the outer world. The role of the inferior function must also be addressed. Each of you has aspects of your personality that are less developed, what I call the inferior function. Perhaps you are highly rational but struggle with emotional expression, or deeply intuitive but find practical matters challenging. The tendency is to avoid or compensate for these inferior aspects, but they are essential parts of your wholeness. Working with your inferior function is like strengthening a weak muscle. It requires patience, consistent effort, and acceptance of initial awkwardness. But as this function develops, it brings new dimensions to your experience and expression of self. Consider the importance of what I call active imagination, the conscious dialogue with the figures and forces of your inner world. This is not mere fantasy or daydreaming, but a disciplined engagement with your unconscious content. Through active imagination, you can begin to understand the various voices and energies within your psyche, learning to differentiate between authentic impulses and conditioned responses. The development of discernment is crucial here. Not every inner voice represents your true self. Some may be internalized social expectations, unresolved complexes, or defensive patterns. Learning to distinguish between these various inner voices requires both patience and practice. The question of authenticity brings us to what I call the individuation of purpose, the way your unique path serves not only your own development but contributes to the collective evolution of human consciousness. Each of you, in becoming your true self, adds something essential to the tapestry of human experience. This is not egotism, but recognition of your responsibility to develop your unique gifts. Consider how the natural world demonstrates this principle. Each flower, each tree, each creature fulfills its nature without questioning whether it should be different. The oak does not strive to become a pine, nor does the rose wish to be a lily. Yet in fully becoming themselves, they contribute to the ecosystem's wholeness. Similarly, your task is not to become like anyone else, but to fully express your unique nature. Let us speak of what I call the transcendent attitude, the capacity to hold multiple perspectives simultaneously while remaining grounded in your authentic center. This is not intellectual relativism, but the ability to recognize that truth often appears differently from different vantage points. Your true self emerges not by rigidly adhering to one perspective, but by developing the capacity to navigate between different levels of understanding. The integration of your personal shadow, those aspects of yourself you have rejected or denied, becomes increasingly important as you progress on this path. Many of you may have encountered what appears to be regression or backward movement in your development. Perhaps old patterns you thought you had overcome suddenly reappear, or new challenges emerge just when you felt you were making progress. Understand that this apparent regression is often a spiral movement rather than a linear retreat. You return to similar issues, but at a deeper level, with greater consciousness and capacity for integration. Each turn of the spiral offers an opportunity to incorporate more of your authentic nature into conscious awareness. The relationship between individual authenticity and collective responsibility must be addressed. Becoming your true self does not mean withdrawing from the world, but engaging with it more fully from your authentic center. Your individual development contributes to the collective in ways you may not immediately recognize. As you become more authentic, you naturally influence the fields of relationship around you, creating space for others to express their truth as well. Consider the paradox of strength and vulnerability in this process. True strength emerges not from armoring yourself against weakness, but from incorporating vulnerability into your conscious personality. The capacity to remain open and responsive while maintaining your center is a hallmark of authentic development. Let us explore what I call the creative response to existence, the way your authentic self naturally generates unique solutions to life's challenges. When you operate from your true center, you find that responses to situations arise not from conditioned patterns, but from the fresh ground of your being. This creativity is not limited to artistic expression, but extends to every aspect of life. Relationships, work, personal growth. The question of timing becomes increasingly subtle as you progress on this path. Learning to distinguish between genuine resistance, which may signal that more preparation is needed, and fear-based procrastination requires deep self-acknowledge. Your unconscious mind has its own rhythm and timing, which may not align with your conscious expectations or social pressures. The development of what I call psychological independence is crucial. The capacity to maintain your authentic course despite external pressures or internal doubts. This independence is not isolation, but the ability to remain true to your nature while engaging fully with others and the world. As we approach the conclusion of our exploration, let me speak of what I call the achievement of personality, not as a final destination, but as an ongoing process of becoming. This achievement involves the continuous integration of new aspects of yourself, the steady expansion of consciousness, and the deepening of your capacity for authentic expression. Remember that the path to becoming your true self is not about reaching perfection, but about embracing wholeness. Every aspect of your experience, your struggles and successes, your doubts and certainties, your light and shadow, contributes to this wholeness. The goal is not to eliminate any part of yourself, but to bring all parts into conscious relationship with each other. In closing, I urge you to consider this journey not as something separate from your daily life, but as the very essence of living. Every moment offers an opportunity for authentic expression. Every challenge an invitation to deeper self-acknowledge. Every relationship a mirror for self-discovery. Your true self is not something to be created, but something to be uncovered. Not something to be achieved, but something to be realized. It exists already within you, waiting not for perfection, but for recognition and integration. The journey of becoming who you truly are is the most profound adventure you can undertake, and it is available to you in this very moment. Go forth with courage, knowing that the very desire to become your authentic self is already an expression of that self. Trust the wisdom of your psyche, honor the timing of your development, and remain open to the mysterious ways in which your true nature seeks to emerge. The world needs not just more people, but more people who have come alive to their authentic being. Let each step you take, whether forward or seemingly backward, be guided by this inner truth. For in becoming who you truly are, you fulfill not only your own destiny, but contribute to the greater unfolding of human consciousness. This is both your privilege and your responsibility to bring into manifestation that unique expression of life that you alone can contribute. May you find the courage to be who you truly are, the wisdom to recognize the path as it unfolds before you, and the strength to remain faithful to your authentic nature. For in this fidelity to your true self lies not only your personal fulfillment, but your greatest contribution to the world. Remember, the journey never truly ends, for each new level of authenticity reveals new horizons of possibility. Continue to explore, to question, to grow. knowing that each step toward your true self is a step toward the greater wholeness of which we are all part.